Well, I really appreciate you coming on the channel, Aaron, and subjecting yourself to the interrogation. Not really, but I do appreciate you being here. So I just want to jump right in and go ahead and why don't you just tell us how you first came into keto and carnivore, and maybe some about yourself and why you actually did it, and just as much of your backstory as you want to share.
All right, so I did go on keto a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, just because I started getting close to 300 pounds. I'm about 6'4", so I was definitely in the obese category, and I wrestled with that keto diet on and off for a couple of years. And I was going to the doctor. I had hypertension, and I eventually went to the doctor. I think it was the spring, almost the spring of 2022. And I went to the doctor. They did blood work like typically, and the doctor said, "Oh, you have type 2 diabetes." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, everything I know about diabetes is not good." And I also didn't know that much about it. I didn't know the difference between type 1 and type 2. So I went home after that doctor's appointment, and I was like, I'm going to do some research. Got on the internet, and within 5 seconds, I found out that type 2 diabetes was reversible. I saw something about a low carb diet. I'm like, okay, well, why wouldn't my doctor tell me that? I was doing keto just because I knew carbs are what made you fat, supposedly. My dad dieted and I seen him lose weight, cutting out the carbs. But for me, keto was not restrictive enough. I was hungry. I'd go to Chipotle and get all the stuff and add all the stuff. And then I could only go so long before I was starving to death, those types of things. But I kind of got mad at my doctor. It was that moment I was like, why wouldn't you tell me that I was type 2 diabetic or that it could be reversed? And then when I looked at all my lab work, and I was like, well, I've been type 2 diabetic and I was pre-diabetic for a couple of years, but you never said anything to me. And now it's like go on a pill and no talk of diet. And that frustration just got me to do some more research, and that's how I inevitably found carnivore, because I was going to stick it to my doctor and essentially be like, this is reversible, low carb, let's go as low as carb as possible. And that's how I found carnivore diet.
So you had been going regularly to your doctor. You'd been pre-diabetic, and he never even mentioned it.
Yeah, I didn't know either. So,
And then when you were finally type 2, it was just, we'll give you we'll give you a pill. No need for an injectable yet, but maybe in a few years, right?
well, yeah, well, now that I know more about it, yeah, that's where I was headed. I call it the permission slip to continue doing exactly what I was doing and just getting sicker.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you weren't deathly ill. It was no mention of anything.
Correct.
So you were 300 pounds, over 300 pounds?
The highest I was about 280.
Okay.
I was
Okay. So close.
Yeah.
Close to that.
Mm-hmm.
So you had been doing keto for a while,
Kind
but
of.
not yeah. I think that is that unfortunately that's kind of a recurring theme. It was in my life. I've talked to a lot of people that had success, and then because of still eating those processed foods, keto snacks and all that kind of stuff, it's totally different than even real whole food keto, right?
Yeah.
So eventually, when you did carnivore, did you do like lion diet, or did you like kind of carnivore with still some dairy and some stuff like that, but just whole food and predominantly meat and eggs?
I went to anything that was meat and eggs right off the bat. And not too far into it, I started watching videos that talked about beef, salt, and water and the lion diet. And so I kind of naturally gravitated towards eating mostly beef, salt, and water. I did add heavy cream in my coffee because I didn't give up coffee. So I wasn't a true carnivore, but I was doing a lot better, but but I gave up quite a bit. Yeah.
Right. So how long did it take for you to get to where your blood sugar was normal?
So that is, I didn't get I wasn't testing my own blood, so I don't know for
Okay.
sure. But within 90 days of going back to and I went back to the doctor and got my labs done, my A1C dropped from a 6.6 to a 5.7.
Okay, so basically 90 days went
Mhm.
from type 2 diabetes to it's either 5.6 or 5.7 is the cutoff for normal. Still a
So
little higher maybe than you
5
would
point,
like, but basically down to normal.
yeah, 5.6 is the cutoff, and then 5.7 is the lowest number you could be as pre-diabetic.
Okay.
Mhm.
So from type 2 to pre-diabetic, just a tenth over, which could be a lab error, by the way. I mean,
It could be a lab error, and I've heard, we haven't got into it, but like I heard sometimes that people that are potentially like hyper responders. I'm getting to something else here, but my cholesterol went way up the leaner I got, and I heard that sometimes people that are hyper responders, their glucose will run a little bit higher than other people, also.
yeah, because of the hyper responders to the protein and also how much weight had you lost in those 90 days?
In those 90 days, I was about 25, 27 pounds. So
Okay. So
it wasn't
not
extreme.
huge, but a fair amount.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
At the moment, it felt huge. It felt like a big deal. Yeah,
Yeah, well, and it is a big deal, really. I mean, we shouldn't say it's not a lot because dropping 30 pounds in 90 days is a fair amount, right?
yeah,
Um, so when you went back to the doctor, he redid your blood work, obviously.
yeah.
And what was his response to that?
Well, that doctor's appointment was one of the most okay. I'm having a hard time with doctors. That doctor's appointment, I went in there, I lost, and I was about 30 pounds down, and they didn't even notice I lost weight, which got under my skin already. And they're like, oh, he finally noticed, oh, you lost some weight after I said something. It's like, oh yeah, you're right, you lost some weight. They're like, well, let's do your blood work, and they're like, oh, now your LDL cholesterol is very high. Now you need to take a statin. And I didn't even get a good job on the lowering the A1C.
Right. Uh, I spoke with someone not long ago, Todd. Um, Todd had weighed over 700 pounds,
Oh wow, yeah.
and he was literally couldn't get out of his chair for yeah 2 years and 4 months. Right,
Mm.
he couldn't stand oxygen 24/7. He goes back to the doctor. He's lost 200 pounds. He can walk around. He's lost 200 pounds in a year. Right,
Yeah.
he's back to. I mean, he still weighs 480 or whatever, but still he's still losing weight. And told the doctor that he'd lost 200 pounds doing carnivore, and this doctor said that diet's going to kill you. And I, when he told me that, you were talking about being angry. It was just like, what? Like the guy's literally about to die any moment, right?
Yeah,
He's lost 200 pounds, and what you have to say is, "Oh, I don't like your diet." Um,
exactly. That's not. I've heard a lot of those stories.
yeah. So obviously, you didn't go on a statin.
No.
No. And all the rest of your blood work, all your metabolic markers were moving in the right direction at that time already, I would imagine, right?
Yes, they've greatly they've every marker for health that's out there. Every single marker for health for me has improved. And I went from like a triglyceride to HDL ratio of like 9.7 all the way. My last one was 1.74. But every marker for health has got better except for my LDL cholesterol. And it was like 438, and then last time was 399. So it's like it's double what my wife's is, and they want her on a statin. So
Yes, yes. And I believe that it's fairly common for about a third of the people that do carnivore or really whole food ketovore kind of diet for their cholesterol to go up.
yeah,
About a third go down, and about a third stay flat. But yeah, my wife's cholesterol is I would guess it was around two. I want to say it was around 250, 260, something like that. Now, our doctor didn't give her a bunch of grief. He just said, "Here, you want a Crestor?" No, thank you.
Mm.
But that was kind of it. So yes. So generally speaking, if all your markers are good and you're good in health, your LDL just doesn't matter very much. So
there's a lot more nuance to LDL cholesterol, which I had to learn the hard way because I'm a husband. I got a beautiful wife. I have 8 children, and I want to be around for them. And when your doctor is essentially telling you you're going to die if you don't take a pill, I have to really consider my choices very, very, like, I just have to really consider, I got to do the research, and it's hard for me to settle on LDL doesn't matter, but there's so much nuance to it. Like, I'm not eating carbs and sugars and stuff like that, so I'm not damaging it, and my body's making it for a reason. And I've settled at this point that LDL cholesterol is a gift from God. That's what my body needs, and for some reason, we'll see where it goes. Obviously, right. I need to watch it.
Have you had a CAC scan, a CAC score?
Yeah, I actually got.
So you do know what you do know what that is. So you actually have a baseline. Like,
correct.
You can go in a year, 2 years, 3 years, and see whether or not your LDL has made any difference, right?
Yeah, and so I ordered that CAC score by myself because I started becoming my own advocate for health. So I'm like, I'm going to do this to get a baseline. Everyone that I talk to online will be like, I got my test and it's 0. So I'm like, it's going to be 0. Came back, it was 122, and it's all in, essentially the Widowmaker. I'm like, oh. So my doctor sent me to a cardiologist, and the cardiologist not too long ago was like, you need to start eating potatoes, sweet potatoes. You need to stop eating just meat. You're going to die of a heart attack. It was just another one of those instances where they're like, you need the statin drug right now. And that was final. There was no arguing. There was no debate. There was nothing other than you need to take the statin.
And what did you decide to do ultimately then?
I am just going to wait for a year to see where my CAC score is.
Yeah. Okay.
See where that baseline. I am bound and determined for it to go lower. But if it doesn't go higher, I'm glad with that too. And 122, I've lived a rough life. I smoked for like 12 years of my life. It's been over 20 since I quit, but I was kind of a party animal when I was younger. I was a wild child, and I had no direction, and I was rough on my body for many years. And so, with alcohol abuse and those types of things. So I'm not surprised that I had some kind of damage. And I'm thankful now that I had just the guts to fight for myself, for one, to go out there and get that score. But the cardiologist was like, you're going to die because of this CAC score. Like, it's always worse. She said, one, it wasn't that bad. 2, said, but these are the ones that will kill you because they're small. But then I was thinking later, no one even asked for this CAC score. I did it for myself. I wouldn't even be in this office right now if it wasn't for me doing some research on my own. I would have just been off doing whatever and just take the pill and,
right.
live.
And if you hadn't started keto or carnivore, or even been told about type 2 diabetes originally, you'd still have no idea, right? You'd have still been eating as bad as you were.
Mm-hmm.
And, on top of the fact that you had that. So I believe that the doctor who developed that score says the normal person increases 20% yearly.
Mm.
So if your score is 100, you're going to be 120, whatever, right? 20% increase, or was it 10%? Maybe a 10% increase yearly. Anyway, anything less than that, right? Like if you have no increase, that's actually better than the average individual. Yeah. As you go forward. So how long ago did you get your score, that test done?
I mean, I would have to look at it. It's probably
Okay.
been for the 6 months.
Okay. So you're about a half year away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So will you do a video and share that? Because I'd really love to see what your score comes.
Yeah,
What your
I
score
definitely
comes
will, because I need ideas for content.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, I'm trying to share my journey, and so it's like, yeah, this is every year I'm going to try to do that score, and if I have to find a way to pay for it out of pocket, if they get tired of me, I'm doing it.
Yeah, actually, I have not done that score, but it is something that I
Mhm.
would like to do.
Okay.
Um, so in the future, again, it's always, unfortunately, and I know I seen that you just had a DEXA scan. I did as well, September 9th, I think, right? Um, but it was extremely difficult to get that. Like
Mm.
I had to drive 2.5 hours to get it.
Oh, wow.
Because every place around me, everybody wants a doctor's referral for everything, right? You can't just, I mean, I could have got one 20 minutes away, but no, you got to have a doctor's referral. My doctor didn't want to order my blood work again in 6 months because he said, oh, no, it's fine. No need. Well, I'm paying for it, like out of pocket, right? But still. So if I want to get my blood work done again in 6 months, I have to, go to Own Your Labs and,
Yeah.
pay 4 or 5 times what it would cost. And the same will be true for a CAC score, I'm sure, because my doctor's not. He says, "Oh, you're in great health. You don't really need that, right?" So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
that's unfortunate, especially if you're willing to pay. It's like, look, I'll pay, right? Why can't I just get what I want? Why do I have to have my doctor say I need to have my blood work done? But
yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. Fortunately for me, my DEXA scan place, I went through some place on the internet. Then I found a place that's like 15 minutes away that I could just pay out of pocket half of what I paid that time, because I went through. So I have that. But the reality is if your doctor's saying you're healthy and you don't need these, I mean, that's also a blessing in a way, also, because sure, it might be good to have a baseline, but I've heard having too much information and stuff like that can just kind of get you worried about stuff and just obsessive on things, and add stress to your life that's unneeded. If your doctor's telling you you're healthy, that's pretty nice. But that being said, I would take it all with a grain of salt and make sure you're your greatest advocate and fighting for yourself at all times.
right, yes, and that's really the thing. I mean, even prior, which you experienced this as well to some level, obviously, before you were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. My my heaviest, I'm only 5'6", so at my heaviest I weighed probably pretty close to 275.
Okay.
And yet, I would show up to the doctor and weigh 220 pounds, which is basically what is that, 100 pounds, 85 pounds overweight, right? I mean, like, well, they don't call it morbidly obese anymore. The severely obese now is the
Okay.
term, because it's more friendly, I guess. But still, because I took no medications, one round of blood work and it's just, you're on your way home. It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and yet I was just on the very edge of just um, spiraling down right into just major health decline. So you do have to be your own advocate. I
Yeah.
mean, the more that we know, the absolute better off that we are. When you rely on someone else and you simply do what you're told, in reality, you're never making your own decisions. You're never making a decision. You're just doing what you've been told to do, as opposed to going out doing the research. And again, if you hadn't done that, um, where would you be today, right?
I guarantee I wouldn't be where I am. I guarantee that I would have probably tried a diet here, there, and failed again. And just every time I failed, I ended up gaining some extra weight on top of it. I would have not been working out 5 days a week like I do now. I wouldn't have been doing the work. And I mean, I'm just thinking about where I would be. Radically different. I wouldn't have bought this little small beater car the other day just because I wouldn't have fit in it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's exactly right. I
Yeah.
mean, there's things you don't think about,
Yeah.
that, our mattress
Mm.
always used to be, if my wife moved too far onto my side, it just kind of sloped down to me, right? After like 7 or 8 years,
Okay.
because you have a trough there, and that doesn't happen anymore. So the new mattress is just flat. It doesn't matter who lays on what side. It's all kind of normal. I mean, you don't think about those things, but literally, the life that we have today wouldn't exist. The people that we are today would not exist, right?
A
Um,
100%. And so, it's easy. I've been on the carnivore diet for, I don't know. I know 540 some days. I just looked it up, and I'm a completely different person than I was before. And I don't know where I would have been if I wouldn't have done it, but I'm thankful that I made it this far, and all the things that I've learned are so valuable. Like, it is already reaped fruit in my life and other people's lives, because I was able to do it, put the hard work in, and now I have advice and just wisdom that I learned, and just the insight, just like you. Even seems silly to say there was a trough in my mattress and now there's not, or I could fit in a car, or I can put on my shoes without bending over. But those things are the things that really end up just making you thankful for the change. And it's like, it makes it also hard to go back, because
oh
you've
yeah,
seen changes that you never saw coming, and it turned you into a new person.
yeah, yes. There are minor things
Mhm.
that you never even thought of in the past,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden, and again, that's certainly, those aren't the major things, right? I mean, it's about, my wife for years has wanted me. She even, she would say often, "I don't care if you're fat. I just don't want you to die tomorrow, right?
Fair enough.
I want you to be healthy,
Mm.
right? Which you can't really be healthy and weigh, 120 pounds more than you should. At least it's pretty hard, but that was part of the thing. And then, just like you mentioned earlier, you have a wife, you have children. I have a wife, and we have 4 daughters who are all married. We have grandchildren,
Mm.
and in the past, it was just always at that spot. Well, make it to 70 or maybe 75 years old, and your mindset completely changes
Mm.
once you really restore your health. And now you're thinking, 70 or 80 is not sufficient for me, right?
That's too young.
Right. Yeah. I want to make it to 120. I still want to be healthy at 100. Now look, I could get hit by a car tomorrow, and that's what I say, but I want to be as healthy as I can when I die.
Yeah.
So whatever that is, it is.
Yeah.
And we've got no promise for tomorrow, but I want to do the best that I can with what I've been given, right?
Yeah.
For the sake of my family, and for my own benefit as well, right? So yeah, and absolutely life altering in ways people probably don't. It's hard to explain the difference in even the view of life, the way that those things happen.
Yeah, I feel like I used to make fun of people that were like super health conscious years ago, because I was, living my best life, and now I'm like, that was probably foolish.
Yeah. We don't give it a lot of thought when we're younger. I don't think. Now, you actually, obviously, the weight was something for you in the beginning, but you really did come in maybe somewhat different way than many people. Like me, for example, when I started, I just wanted to lose weight. It's all I cared about.
Hmm.
I got down to about 180, and or maybe 190. I really became much more focused on health, right? As all these medical conditions I had begin to resolve. But you came in many ways because of the type 2 diabetes and the high blood pressure and those types of things, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, you don't weigh 280 anymore. You're not obese anymore. I can tell by uh,
Well,
by
I'm
by the
still
picture.
I'm still technically overweight, but I've been lifting weights too. So
Yeah, yes. Well, but on
yeah,
your scan,
yeah.
did you have a pretty high percentage of body fat?
It was like maybe 23.
Oh, so probably on the high end of what they would consider normal for your range, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But the
So
lean mass,
yeah,
yeah, healthy.
my lean mass was 170 pounds.
Yes, yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah. So good a good scan, right? Especially compared to before.
Correct. Yeah.
So what about your visceral fat? Was it
My
good or
visceral
bad
fat,
or
it was actually, I need to lose about, for their scan, whatever their scale is perfect. I need to lose about one half, like a half pound of visceral fat for them to say that like I'm golden.
okay. All right, so very good. Yeah,
So
mine was 2.2 pounds
mhm.
and they wanted me at 1 or below, right? So
Yeah, so I'm somewhere at one and
I
a
have
half
about a
pounds.
pound and a quarter
Yeah.
to go. So, did you start working out after you actually began to do carnivore, or had you always kind of done some exercise or workout in the past?
Well, I've right before carnivore is when I started trying to work out just a little bit. And I had ran on and off on my treadmill and mostly off, not on, but it's like, okay, it's a new year. I'm gonna try to get in shape. You hop on the treadmill. Okay, I hate running. It sucks. I can't breathe. Why am I doing this before I have to go to work and work hard? This, all the mental stuff. But it's like in my mind, it was the right thing to do. But not until I started actually losing weight on carnivore did I start, running more and, lifting weights. And I had people like come up to me and were like, "Hey man, do you lift weights?" And I'm like, "Nope," because I'm a big guy, but it was like people thought I lifted weights, and I'm like, "Do you know what? I'm gonna try lifting weights." And I started doing it because I had the energy to do it. It was like 3 days a week, and then after 6 months or so, 6 8 months, I was like, or I was challenged to do it 5 days a week, and now 5 days a week I have a workout regimen, and it's not nothing crazy. It's like an hour time. I run or walk or do sprints, and then I'm lifting heavy weights. And at 45 years old, I'm getting stronger than I've ever been in my life. And it's beautiful. It's lovely. I like it.
So you do heavy weights at probably lower rep, like high intensity,
Yeah.
not like 40 reps of lighter weights or anything
I was
crazy like
doing
that.
that. I've done it over this last year and a half. I've done it like every which way, but now I'm trying to maximize my time and do the heavier weights. And I don't run as much. I'm sprinting instead.
Yeah.
I I
Yeah.
found that I love walking. I can walk and walk and walk. I don't like running where you get like you can't breathe, but I don't mind sprinting and then catching my breath and sprinting again. I actually enjoy it. So now I'm sticking with what I enjoy, but I also got to make sure I'm trying to press and push myself here and there. But I don't want to get
Right.
injured. I want to be healthy, and I want to build some muscle because it makes me feel better, and not just vanity wise. It helps me at my job. I've been moving furniture for charity for almost 20 years, and moving couches and people's furniture, like cleaning out estates for resale, like it's a hard job. And
Yeah.
years ago, I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it anymore because I was getting sick. And now I'm like, I'm challenging a couple 20 somethings at work saying, dude, I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to show you how this, I'm older than both of you combined, and I'm going to outwork you today because I went to bed at a good hour. I've been eating good food. I hit the weights before I even got here. Now, I still get tired, but I'm enjoying the fact that I'm not as, I say this all the time, but I thought I was getting old, but I found out I was getting sick. And when you get those years,
Yeah.
when you get those years back that you thought were gone because it wasn't old age, it was sickness, you're like, man, I feel like a kid again. Like I'm at
Yes.
work and there's like a front counter. I'm like, every once in a while, I just have the urge. I'm just gonna jump up on top of this counter and do a little dance. Why? Because I'm silly and I can. And everyone around me is like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just like, "Whatever. I'm the boss. Leave me alone."
That's the just a few weeks ago on the back of my pickup truck. I don't remember what I was in the bed for, but the tailgate was down. It's a Nissan Titan 4-wheel drive, so it's not super high, but it's fairly high up. And I just walked over to the end, and I thought, I'm just going to jump off. And again, that's like, which I did, but I would have never done that just a few years ago. It's like you get as low down to the tailgate as you can, kind of slide off, because again, with all the extra weight, it's like just this jarring thing when you hit the ground, right? I just walked to the end and just jumped off because I thought, I can do that. Yeah. And it was no big deal. And it's part of the sad, it is a sad thing that people have come to accept, that you hit 40, you hit 50, certainly if you hit 60 or 70, you're just going to deteriorate. You're going to be decrepit. You're going to hurt all the time. You're not going to be able to do what you used to do. And I think because that's become the norm, we just kind of accept that. And we think that the aches and the pains and all of those things, just part of the process, and maybe it is part of the process, but not as early as what we've come to accept it as the norm. And that's the part you don't realize how sick, and really that's a great way that you described it. You don't realize how sick that you were until you're not.
Correct.
Which is part of the thing. Earlier, you had mentioned, by the way, that you went and did research. One of the great things about one of the reasons why I'm so glad that you came on, that you do your channel, why many people in this space do channels, is because 30 years ago, Aaron, you couldn't have made those discoveries.
Yeah.
Right. I would have never found carnivore 30 years ago, even 15 years ago, because that information just wasn't out there. And it's one of the great things about being able to do this type of thing, is to help people understand that there is a way. You at least have a choice. You can choose not to do it, but you at least have a choice, right?
Yeah.
You can do your own research. You can be your own advocate. You can do those kind of things, which is an incredible thing. It really is. So also high blood pressure. That also resolved, I'm guessing.
So my blood pressure is only high when I go to the doctor. Anytime I check it at home, like I just get stressed at the doctor, and not every time, but typically, like there's been times it hasn't, but for the most part, I'm going in there anxious because I've not had good, I haven't just had good time at the doctor. I'm like thinking about like, what am I going to say? And then everything that I've ever learned disappears when I go into the doctor. And yeah, but they do it wrong too. I rush over there, then I sit down, they put it over my sleeve, and then my arm's hanging down like this. I'm like, I know you're supposed to have it at heart level. It's your shirt cuff's supposed to be up. You're supposed to let the person relax first, give me a little spot first. Like
that's my last visit was exactly the same. Now, my experience at the doctor has been much better than most people. So my doctor gave me no grief whatsoever, nor my wife. He didn't give her pushback about not taking a statin or anything. But my blood pressure is always like off the chart when I go in. But it was exactly what you just mentioned. First of all, I was a little stressed because I'm going to tell my doctor I've been doing carnivore for a year, right? And you just never know how they're going to react.
Yeah.
And so I'm already my pulse is like way up. I go in, but yeah, they take you straight back to the chair. They set you down. They're asking you questions. Put on a cup around your sleeve. Immediately check. And it's like, oh, your blood pressure is kind of high. Is it always this high? No, it's like 115 over 75 at home. I check it all the time. Oh, well, it's like 168 over 89 or some such thing. And it's like, and of course, that's all the doctor said was,
which is a perfect blood pressure for like when you're racing around, running from lions and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so mine's always high when I don't go very often, honestly, but when I do,
Yeah.
It's always kind of high. So does the rest of your family do predominantly carnivore or something along that line?
I'm trying to lead by example. My wife has done a couple 30-day challenges when it comes to the carnivore diet. She's not sold out on it. She doesn't have the same health issues that I've had. So it's like it's not as much of a need for her, but it has impacted her. If I have a steak in the sous vide machine, she will eat it every single time. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can, as long as I prepare, like she will eat the food. And in having kids, like I'm not going to force my kids to eat a carnivore diet. I think that is going to swing the pendulum too far. I already have some of my older kids saying, Dad, I remember when you used to make good food and now we're just eating this stuff, because I would cook these extravagant Sunday dinners. So we're just trying to make better choices and better options, like in a small scale. So we cut out cereal, and except for maybe like a Saturday or someone's birthday, we eat a lot of eggs. I buy 180 eggs a week for my kids. But right off the bat, things happen like we have one kid that's kind of hyper. He's the more hyper one. You feed him cereal, 30 minutes later, you
yeah.
feed him
Like a
eggs,
pinball machine,
you
right?
feed them eggs, it's not as extreme. But you can
Right.
once you start changing little things like that, you noticing effects in even your kids' lives, you just make the changes. And sure, they're small, but there's just some things I can't feed my kids anymore. That
Right.
because it's not real food. I don't look at it that way. And me and my wife, like she's still thinking, she's like, oh, ice cream. And I'm like, I have no desire for ice cream. I have no desire for ice cream. She's like, I miss ice cream. I want a hamburger. I'm like, I mean, beef patty with if I put some cheese on it is like a dessert for me because I don't eat the cheese typically. So it's like in my mind has changed, but we're at different places and I'm trying to lead by example. But there are points that I need to not um, just lead by example. I'm going to have to essentially, I'm trying to think of the word. I might have to get a little bit more forceful here and there, but it's going to be very sparingly with my
Right.
family and try to do it in a wise way if I can.
Yeah. So on the major issues,
Hmm.
which is really a great approach to parenting in general. There's certain things that are absolutely no, certain
Yeah,
lines you can't cross, but you try to make those places that are actually critical, right?
yeah,
And not you don't want to pick a hills to die on that are not really life and death or extremely important issues. So yeah, so that's really interesting. We have found. So my wife has done this with me, although again she really had no health issues. Um, and all of our daughters are married, so none of them are at home anymore. But we have found that our two younger daughters, particularly, have really become much more aware. You
mhm,
know, they have children. One of them has four, just had her fourth, and but she's much more aware of that. And that's the thing. Do I wish that she would cut out everything? Absolutely,
yeah,
but I know the reality of it, right?
mhm,
Eh, and so I tell her and I tell other young healthy people, which they are, if you would replace half the bad stuff with eggs and with bacon and cut out the total trash, seed oil as much as possible. I mean,
yeah,
just to eat real food, even if you're eating potatoes or cut down that, like you said, cereal one day a week or on weekends. Man, you're like better than 75% of the population,
yeah.
right? And so at least you'll kind of offset the bad stuff as much as possible. And I think that's what you do, and hopefully, they're much more aware, they're much more conscientious about what they buy and what they do. And that's a good thing. And hopefully they'll come along into the more healthy as they move along, right?
I'm always afraid that I'm gonna, I don't want to push them too much into like growing up and then hating like health stuff in general because their parents forced
Right.
them into it. But yeah, if I can the other day was my daughter's birthday and she wanted chicken tenders, right? So I bought my family French fries and chicken tenders.
Yeah.
I don't know which oil it was cooked in. And I was like, I'm not eating this because I have the health problems. But you know what? I ate whatever I wanted until I was 43, almost 44 years old. I'm not going to deny them everything, but the dam in my life broke about 43, 44 years old. And I'm hoping that they never have to have the dam in their life break. I hope that they can make wise choices and have some of these things, or I hate the word moderation, but like every once in a while, and just have some more self-discipline than I had. And maybe not self-discipline, but at least knowledge of what is actual food and what are the things that are damaging for people. And I'm hoping that you know, it pays off. Like I would rather them eat a tomato than some breaded chicken that's fried, because I don't even know what's in that. At least the tomato, typically if I ate one, I would be one that I grew, which I'm a
Right.
gardener, which is so weird, gardening and having food that I don't eat.
My, my wife discovered this past year, although she's never really had any health issues, she's a few years older than me. And this year she discovered uh, if she eats tomatoes,
Mhm.
particularly a lot of them raw, and like tomato and onion salad and that kind of, or tomato and cucumber salad with some onion, it really makes her joints hurt. It
Okay.
used to be her joints hurt a lot anyway, some of them. Now her joints almost never hurt.
Mhm.
And but when she eats tomatoes, and so we had a whole garden full that she's given away almost all of them
Yeah.
this year, and we will grow much fewer.
Yeah. So all
Um,
those oxalates and stuff like that. With my wife doing the carnivore diet for 30 days here and there, I feel like she's been having some allergic problems with some food. So she's trying to figure out what she's allergic to. And we think it might be peanuts at this point. But it's like, I almost am thinking, did her going on the carnivore diet like expose some of these allergies that she had that she didn't realize she had, because it like changed with her body chemistry or microbiome or all these things. And I'm like, did I do this? But eventually that dam would have broke anyway, and those problems would have came out. I think a lot of times we'll just have like, we can work up like our bodies will work extra hard to deal with um, those allergies, and they build up in us. But then once they don't have to, it kind of resets, and the next thing you know, you got this sensitivity that's always been there, but you can't fight it
yeah.
off as well.
Well, and I think for me, one of the issues I had was when I was younger, I had no allergies, right?
Mm,
Didn't seem to be allergic to anything. There came a time where I had just chronic sinus infections and allergies. I took allergy pill every day. I used nasal spray nonstop all day long. Still took Sudafed and Benadryl. And what I always thought was allergies, that pollen, allergic to the dog. The reality is I don't have any of that anymore.
mhm.
But because I probably had a fair number of food allergies, right?
Yeah,
And eventually all of that stuff just works together. It's like, yeah, the body's amazing at just overcoming a certain amount. But yeah, the dam breaking is just a great analogy, because eventually you just overwhelm it,
correct.
right? And when you finally get back to normal,
Mhm.
all of that stuff, I don't know if it hits you harder because you've not been doing it, but
Yeah,
you certainly notice it immediately. It's
yeah,
like if I eat anything that kind of, I used to have gout and take gout meds. It's the same thing. Now, if I eat anything, I mean, I notice that very evening. It's like already I feel the twinge, and so I have to be careful about. Before, it probably also bothered me. It was just so constant. I never realized it. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it is. It's one of those things. So you don't do much dairy. So
I
you
try
don't.
not to. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't make keto ice cream. Um,
No, no. The close. the closest thing I got to any treat, and it literally happened this last week, is I bought some Greek yogurt that was just cream and the enzymes, and then I put like raspberry element salt in it because I saw Dr. Sean Baker do it. I'm like, I have not had a treat like this forever, because I try not to think of treats and snacks. But for my daughter's birthday, I was like, I didn't even plan it. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to try this. And it was like, it was all right. I'm not craving it. It had a little bit of stevia. It wasn't 100% clean, but I tried this. I was having some joint pain right afterwards, though, because that dairy is one of those things that I will feel joint pain right after eating it. And I got to make sure I really want it. So I'll add it in a little bit here and there, but it's been a long road of discovery of what was causing the inflammation in my body. And dairy is one of those things that will cause inflammation in my body. Yeah. And I know the heavy cream, if I let it, will get out of control, because it doesn't seem that I like coffee. I like heavy cream. But I also gave up coffee for a while, and then I added it back, and I'm considering giving it up again. So
we actually do consume pretty copious amounts of coffee. Yeah. So I was telling someone the other day, they were talking about quitting coffee, and I said, I have cut back to a pot a day.
Okay.
And so me and my wife both drink. We make 2 pots a day. Yeah. And now we do. I know you said you don't like the word moderation. I practice moderation. If we make a 3rd pot, it has to be decaf. I mean, we do have certain rules, right? And we use heavy whipping cream. I did something not long ago. I did just beef and salt and water. Well, I did drink coffee, but I cut out all dairy. Mm-hmm. So I drank my coffee black then, but I do like heavy whipping cream. So you do pretty much. So you do just eggs and meat. You never do any kind of vegetables at all? Nothing ever mixed in? So rarely, at least, right?
For the first year, I gave myself I ate 3 pot stickers one day after 90 days of doing the diet. It was my treat. I tasted it. It tasted like flour. I was like, this is junk. I don't even care. And I'm trying to remember, I had some hummus a couple times just from a place and dipped some steak in it. But I've had a couple green peppers that I've grown and just kind of gnawed on, and a couple little tomatoes here and there. And sure, do I want to be a person that only eats carnivore? Yes. But at the same time, I don't want to be too legalistic. And so I'm trying to eat 100% carnivore, but every once in a while, if I grew something, I'll nibble on it when I'm outside, doing some chores and stuff like that. And it's but it's nominal. It doesn't affect me. It's not a big deal. It's just, I'm not going to taste that flavor for another year because the garden's going to be done. I'm not buying the stuff. I tried an avocado a couple times. So I'm like, it's all right.
Yeah. My wife still likes vegetables.
Okay.
But my wife, and I've said this many times, but I just like to give her to give her due praise in this area. My wife just did keto with me when I did it. She's done carnivore with me when I've done it, and she just eats what I eat, and mostly because she just wanted me to lose weight and to be healthy, and it's also helped her as well to feel better. Although she didn't have any kind of major health issues. That'd be bad to lose that. But she will have vegetables certainly more often than me, but I would say roughly we're about 8 out of every 10 days, pretty much just animal products. Now we do dairy, hard cheese, and heavy whipping cream. But we will on occasion have green peppers and onions and eggs, but we like stuffed jalapenos with cream cheese and bacon, stuff like that. But it's pretty rare. But so predominantly carnivore, and I rarely go outside of that. My wife will a little more often than me, but she does practice moderation. I suck at moderation, so
yeah. Same.
I'm pretty much I can abstain. I cannot moderate very well, so I have pretty stiff guardrails for me to keep me on track. So
yeah, I find
otherwise I'll be off the rails.
I find after putting a lot of time and a lot of hard work into it, it's like I don't want to I don't want to get myself into a place where I'm eating like I used to.
Oh,
But when it comes to like, I told myself after a year, I'm going to go ketovore. I'm like, okay, what is ketovore? It's like, well, it's 10 carbs or less per day. And I'm like, that's nothing anyway. Like I can eat 10 grams of carbs a day in eggs if I really wanted to, because there's a little bit in there. And with the meat, I'm like, so pretty much not eating vegetables. So I don't really miss it. I don't really miss it. I tried some sauerkraut the other day, but the ingredients were cabbage, salt, and fermentation. That was it. So I'm looking at those ingredients. I'm like, if I'm going to have a treat, it's going to be something ridiculous like this that most people like would just throw in the trash anyway because it tastes weird. But I don't mind the acidicness, and I'll always eat it with a big steak. And but then I'm also have that part of my brain thing, Aaron, is this a slippery slope? You're going to lose your carnivore card. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm too far into this that I'm not going back.
Yeah, and that's what happens eventually. It's like for me, I do well only once this year when we're into September. I mean, I had cheesecake on Father's Day, but and I felt like crap that evening and the next day. But I planned to do it. I did it, and at Christmas time, will I have a big giant sugar cookie? Maybe, right? But now I'm at the point now I don't crave those things either, and the notion of going back and eating that way is just unfathomable, right? Because you just know that it's just not good, right? So that's not part of the plan, but I'm pretty strict most all the time, just because I don't want to go backwards, not even a little, right? So those things don't make me feel good when I do eat them, and so I pretty much don't go there.
I had someone ask me early on an interview, said like, "Have you cheated?" It was like someone's like, "Have you cheated?" And it's like every time that I've cheated, I don't like the word. I have planned in advance.
Yeah. Yes.
And some of the decisions were nominal, and some of them are right there on the edge, like the hummus or whatever. I don't know if it had seed oils in it. I was hoping it was olive oil. I should have asked, but it's one of those things like I don't feel like I've cheated. I feel like I've did it on purpose and had control. But as someone that has struggled with addiction in the past, I'm really sensitive to those things. I know how the heart is deceitful above all things. You could talk yourself into stuff. So knowing those things, I try to make sure that I have guardrails way in advance. And that's part of the reason I've continued my YouTube channel and just documenting things, because I have some accountability. I have people to talk to. I have people that are relying on me to try to do a good job and also be honest about what I'm doing. And to me, it's like symbiotic and I enjoy it. And so that's,
and actually I did a video one time about that very thing, where I said, people ask me, do you cheat? And no. So the answer is no, I haven't cheated. And even because I'm like you, my guardrails are holidays, there are no rules. And so I eat whatever I want on holidays. I've only done it once this whole year, right? Because I normally still don't eat anything that I wouldn't normally eat. I mean, blueberries, I don't eat those all the time. Would I eat them? Yeah. But I mean, like cheesecake, it was a one-time deal. But I planned that 3 weeks in advance, right? I said, I'm going to have this on Father's Day. And that was it. And so, I always thought of I used to cheat all the time in the past. That's like when I would go to the gas station, get a Snickers bar, eat the evidence before I come home, and throw the wrapper away. So my wife didn't know. That's cheating, right? Yeah. I don't do that. And so I don't just arbitrarily just grab something and put it in my mouth, because I know that's where it just emotionally, psychologically, all of that kind of stuff is just a bad place to be. So if you're going to have something, make the plan, do it, get right back on, and live with your decision, right? And you'll suffer for a day and a half the way I did, maybe or maybe not, but that's the way it goes.
I mean, yeah, that kind of there's your sign. Like when it if you eat it, then it doesn't make you feel good. You're like, oh, yay.
Maybe
Another half.
that's why I haven't done it since Father's Day.
Yeah.
I would guess, right? So
Yeah, I mean, that is true. You hit on something like something that you're essentially doing in the light. Once you start hiding things, you're hiding it from people, then you have a problem. So I would ask for help. Don't stay stuck if you're hiding food. Don't stay
yeah,
don't stay stuck there. Just say, listen, I need some help. It literally happens to the people in thousands of different ways. People get addicted and hide things in dark places all the time, and it's always the same. You feel trapped, like you can't get out. You're waiting for something, a catalyst of change. This video is your catalyst of the change. Go tell
yeah,
somebody, I need some help. Guess what?
absolutely.
Get going, and then
Yeah.
you're unstuck.
And then because you've been hiding it, then you just beat yourself up about the
Yeah.
fact that it's just a vicious cycle that literally sucks the life out of you.
Yep.
And you become trapped there, and it's not a place you want to be.
I'm picturing myself
For
doing
sure.
squats, right? I hate squats, right? You go down with all these weight, but then it gives me mobility. But in anything that you're working on, you're gonna get stronger. It's gonna take time. So fall down less, but get up faster each time you do.
Yeah.
And that will build strength in your life. I'm just saying, don't beat up yourself forever. And don't get, once you mess up, don't beat yourself up forever. Take it seriously again. And then if you have to get up faster again, do it again. And
yeah. Yeah, one thing I tell people, if you come into keto or carnivore, the only way that you will fail, I mean, if you're doing real whole food keto, ketovore, carnivore, the only way you're going to fail is to quit.
Yep.
Right? It works.
Mm-hmm.
But if you allow yourself to be, kind of just beaten down and give up and lose hope and quit, that's where you fail. But you're not gonna fail if you just keep getting up, right?
Yeah.
So,
Which it's not easy. It's not easy,
no.
especially when you're new to failing. If that's your default, you're just so used to failing and then just staying there. Yeah.
Look, if this was easy, I wouldn't have waited until I was 58. I'm 59 now. I wouldn't have spent, over 5 decades being morbidly obese, right? It's not because it's easy,
Yeah.
or that because I have some super amount of willpower or discipline. I mean, believe me, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that was the case, I would have done it when I was 25 or 30, not 55. And even at that, I came in about 4.5 years ago, and had some success, had some failure, nearly quit, muddled around, but in the end, no matter what the struggle is, it's worth the effort.
Yeah.
Right, because it is absolutely life changing.
When you get control back, the empowerment is amazing.
Oh yeah. It's liberating in ways people don't comprehend. Just that you don't think about food anymore. Mm-hmm. Not the way I was obsessed in the past, right? Mm-hmm. So, yes. All right. Well, Aaron, any final thoughts here? We're going to come right up against the hard end on this one.
I want to just say thank you for having me on your channel and just interviewing me and just amazing job, like being an advocate for yourself and doing the hard work and taking your wife along with you. And just, I'm thankful to hear other people doing these things that are difficult and fighting for your health and now advocating for health and getting the word out to people that they don't have to be stuck where they're at. There is hope. There is, you're getting sick. You're not getting old. Obviously, I don't know where everyone's at, but it's worth the shot just to get control back in your life, to be empowered, and to be in a place get to a place where you're the boss of essentially your destiny in a lot of ways. Like you're not controlled by ridiculous things like food.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I greatly appreciate you coming on. I really do. It was great to speak with you. I hope that we're able to do it again sometime.
Yeah.
And if you have not seen the ticker across the bottom, you can see it now. Go check out Aaron's channel.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Aaron. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chuck.
Bye.